Trade talks are intensifying around the St. Louis Blues as reports have revealed the St. Louis Blues are in on a young budding star from the Eastern Conference. But not only that, we get a huge draft update going into the first round tonight, revealing the perfect selection for the St. Louis Blues going into the draft. We're going to break down all this and more later on this episode. Before we get into that, Blues fans, we've known you've been asking for more Blues content. And with that, we're happy to announce that we're launching Blues Digest. So if you want to keep up to date on everything to do around your St. Louis Blues from me and Darius, go check out Blues Digest. We're going to be posting content on them going into the draft, free agency, everything you need to know on the St. Louis Blues you can catch straight at Blues Digest. So make sure to go and hit that subscribe button. But with that, Darius, let's just hop straight into the first thing today, where we did get some quotes from Doug Armstrong going into the draft. He made it very clear, and you can pause and you can read through this, that if they're going to trade the 19th overall pick, they're not looking at someone that's an unrestricted free agent after 1 year. They want to get someone with term. They want to go into this and either take a selection at 19 to bolster the future of this team, or flip this pick for someone that has multiple years or an RFA. Now, what is your initial thoughts just before we get into the player they're linked to and the draft pick? What is your thoughts on Doug making it very clear they're not looking at rentals?
I think that makes a ton of sense. There's no reason that you should trade your 19th overall pick in the first round for a rental at this point. It makes absolutely no sense. So, if you are going to make a splash, that it could make sense to trade your first round pick. We're going to get into obviously who they could use that pick on in a second, but there's a lot of teams with 2 picks in this first round that are trying to trade their second pick. So, that could be something that, when you look around the league, why would you want to trade your pick? And yes, this is considered maybe a weaker draft to some, right? Like next year, a lot of people are saying it's going to be a more deep draft. I would argue that the top 5 in this year's draft is actually very strong, but obviously outside of that, I can understand that it might be a little bit of a weaker draft, but I just don't see, a reason to do that. So hang on to your draft pick. If somebody calls and says, hey, we'll give you a player with term that can make an impact immediately, then yes, you absolutely consider it, especially in this year's draft. But there's going to be a lot of really good players still available at 19, and I think they're ultimately going to hang on to it, and that's probably a good thing.
I mean, Blues fans, we've had an exciting season. We know what Doug Armstrong's doing. We know how good this team was going into the playoffs. But we did get a report today from Scott Wheeler, or a couple days ago, but it will be linked down below if you want to read through it. But he goes into linking the Blues in its final mock draft to Cole Rishny. Now, Rishny, in my opinion, is a great prospect. If he's there at 19, you bolster up the middle of your team. Rishny went out a prolific assist guy. Is it someone that can go out, get you points? He can score goals. He was phenomenal in the playoffs. Looking at Rishny, is this something you think fits the Blues, Darius? They need to add a bit of center depth. They have Dvorsky coming up and ready and poised to join this team very soon. But with some aging centers on the team, Shen is someone that maybe in the next 3 years won't be on this team. Do you think Rishny is the perfect fit going into this draft?
I think Rishny would be a really good option down the road. This is a guy who I think is going to take some time to develop still, at least in terms of, his game translating to the NHL level. Could be a replacement, like you said, for Braden Shen somewhere down the road. So I think that it makes a lot of sense. At the end of the day, the Blues should take whoever's the best player available at 19. And we've heard a lot of things about certain players who we thought were going to go, top 10, top 20 in this year's draft that are now sliding down, and certain players after the interviews are rising. So it's going to be a very weird draft in terms of, I don't think a lot of the picks in the first round are going to stay with the teams that, have them right now. And some players are really going to shift around. But if this guy is available at 19, I think you take him. Great playmaking center, still can score, can still put the puck in the back of the net. He had 92 points during the regular season in the WHL this year. And like you mentioned, in the playoffs, he was absolutely electric. He had a great playoff. So that's a guy that I think you can clearly win with. I'm always looking at playoff points and what players do in the playoffs. He's going to take some time to develop. I feel like his game is going to take a minute to translate to the NHL level. But if he's available, you take him. But that being said, there could be some really, really high skilled players that could drop in tonight's draft. So, stay tuned for that, because I feel like there's going to be some fireworks. But if he is available, it would be a good draft pick.
And in this article where we did see Doug Armstrong speak on trading the pick, there's a lot more to it. As I said, will be down below. But he goes into how you want to build a team through your center, defenseman, and goaltending. Wingers are something you can focus on after. So going out to get a young center, a prolific playmaker, someone that can fill in this void in 3 years. Blues fans, what is your thoughts on them being linked to Cole Rishny at pick number 19 by Scott Wheeler? Go down and leave a comment on that below, or leave a comment on who you think they're going to draft, or who they do draft if you're watching this in the future. Shout out to you guys as well. But the big thing is they have been linked in trade talks. We've seen the Noah Dobson stuff. That got shut down as he wants to stay east. But from Darren Dreger today, we see interest in Bowen Byron, the St. Louis Blues. Now, Bowen Byron is a very interesting name. We know the left side of this team on what's on defense. But the big thing with Bowen Byron is you're getting a very young defenseman. Yes, he's an RFA, but someone that can go out and consistently put up points. Before we get into the implications, what a contract might look like and what they might have to give up. Looking at Bowen Byron, in my opinion, if you play him on the right side, this is the perfect fit. But Darius, do you feel any different on this?
No, I think that that could work, right? Again, he's a left shot, so I'm a little skeptical of that sometimes. I like to look at the game in a traditional way, really, and I think that, if you're a left shot, you should be on the left side. If you're a right shot, you should be on the right side. It doesn't always have to be that way, but you're better suited for that if you play on your hand in his side. But he can play the right side, and we've seen it before that he can handle that. He's won a Stanley Cup. That's a big thing, right? Like, he knows how to win. He knows what it takes to win. His stats that year were, unbelievable as well in advanced analytics. So I do wonder though, Mark, and again, we'll talk about specifics on a contract in a second because he is an RFA, but I do wonder if most teams and if the Blues are truly interested in him, go the trade route instead of an offer sheet. Obviously, you can wait to offer sheet him, but it's going to be quite a bit of money, right? Of course. And obviously, if you trade for him, he still needs a contract, but it's going to be quite a bit of money. And you're going to have to give up some futures. And we know if you trade with the Buffalo Sabres because of what happened with JJ Peterka, they don't really have any interest in futures right now. They want some players that can make an impact. So I wonder if you can offload some salary as well, which I think is very interesting for the Blues because it is kind of tight and they still have a couple moves to make, like signing Hofer, right? So I do wonder if they go that route instead. I think it would be pretty interesting.
Because looking at Bowen Byron in a whole, we know he is someone that can put up points. He is still solid defensively. I clicked on every screenshot but the right one, but we did see, did it once again. We did see that he was almost top in total time on ice, only at 20 years old, when the Colorado Avalanche won a cup. Yes, bringing in a left-handed defenseman to play on the right side might not work the best, but we've seen TJ Brodie play his entire career on the right side as a left-handed. It's hilarious that the Chicago Blackhawks had to buy him out. That's just for a different topic. But with Byram coming in, you look at the future of the team. Fowler's getting older, Parayko, Leddy, Falk. If you can move on from either Falk or Leddy in this deal, I think you have to do it. This is a Buffalo team that's looking to get better. They're adding players, like you said, that's not future pieces, but pieces that can help at the very moment. So if you can just entice them with Leddy, Falk, these guys have experience in the playoffs. Maybe you can get a deal around on a prospect, a pick, and one of these guys. You can move on from them and still make the future. But I do think it's going to get interesting on the contract. You can look at the projections. He is projected around 4 to 6 million, depending on what you're looking at. But would you be comfortable moving out pieces to bring in Byram and extending them to, say, a 4 or 5 year deal at this price?
Yes, because he has had some injury problems in the past, but it seems like he could be, rounding the corner on that. And he's a great defenseman. He's a great, he can move the puck. We know he can put up some points. Great skater as well. This guy would make a difference. So like you said, if you can somehow, attach something to Leddy, let's say, or even Justin Falk, and then you bring this guy on the right side to play with maybe Broberg, that could make a lot of sense for the Blues. I think it would ultimately improve the defense, actually. And, heading forward, obviously, like we've been talking about, the defense is aging. That's something that you have to consider. And from the Buffalo Sabres side of things, if you're getting a guy like Falk or Nicoletti, that could make a lot of sense too, because then you can go and flip them for futures or other younger players at like a trade deadline, let's say. So it could make sense for both sides. And we know that the Buffalo Sabres, although they got one right shot defenseman in the Peterka trade, are looking for more and want to bolster their defense and obviously add at forward too. So this could make a lot of sense, I think, for both teams. I think you would have to attach something still. It wouldn't just be like a 1-for-1 trade or anything like that, but could make a lot of sense. And for Bo Byram, the type of player he is, I think 4 to 6 million is very fair. It just depends on the term of course. So I think this could make sense because obviously, we've been talking about Noah Dobson. Doesn't look like that's very likely to a Western Conference team or the St. Louis Blues. But Bo Byram is still very much available, and I think that he probably will be moved or offer sheeted. And because he will be offer sheeted, I feel like that's why the Sabres are going to look to move him.
But Blues fans, what is your thoughts on everything we spoke on? What's your thoughts on Cole Rishny being linked to the Blues at pick number 19? What is your thoughts on Bowen Byron? Do you think he fits this team as a future defenseman, or would you rather go out to get someone that has played on the right side their entire career? Go down and leave a comment down below on everything we spoke on. And once again, shout out to you guys, all you Blues fans that watch this. We're so excited to launch Blues Digest. I'm nervous. I feel like I'm on a date with a 10 out of 10 right now. But we're so excited to get you guys content on the Blues, specifically the Blues on Blues Digest. So go down, hit the subscribe button on Blues Digest. But that'd be it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back in another episode, so keep your eye out for that. I've been your host, Mark Fly, with my co-host, Darius. Take care.